Do you think he'll find out, Mom? He's got that same look my daddy used to have, right before.
I'm scared, Mama. I'm scared I'll end up like you.
You remember to get everything prepared the way I told you? Last year?
Last year? I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this, Mama.
Keep your voice down. Walls in this house carry further than you think.
My name is Quincy Thompson. I'm 42, and for most of my life I've believed one simple thing. A good man doesn't announce what he carries. He just carries it. That belief got me through 14 years of marriage, 3 overseas deployments, and a career spent keeping other people safe, while quietly managing my own storms at 2 a.m. It let me smile through Sunday dinners, and never mention what kept me awake at night. It also nearly cost me everything. I sat in my office on the 28th floor of a building in the Loop that Friday, looking out over Lake Michigan, a pen hovering over papers that could end my marriage. I never imagined I'd be the one blindsided. I'd spent 20 years learning to read danger in other people's lives. I never once thought to look for it in my own. Some nights, long after my wife Jamila fell asleep beside me, I'd lie there replaying the quiet parts of those deployments. The weight of silence before something went wrong. The sound of my own boots on gravel at 3 a.m. I never described any of it to her. I told myself keeping it out of our house was the same as protecting her from it. I know now those were never the same thing. On a Friday afternoon in late September, I sat in my Chicago office holding a pen over divorce papers my lawyer had drawn up that week. On my screen was a $340,000 consulting contract, the biggest win of my career. In my jacket pocket was the reason I'd called that lawyer. A bank statement I'd found days earlier for an account I never knew existed. My wife's name was on it. Balance, $47,000. A man who'd spent his career finding what others tried to hide, and I never saw this one coming. To understand how I got there, I have to go back to an ordinary Tuesday. I came home to Harper Avenue in Hyde Park, to a cold sandwich on the counter, and a note from Jamila. Don't wait up for me. 4 words, no small heart drawn underneath, the way she signed everything. I noticed, and let myself believe it meant nothing. That night, something made me search the house. In my desk, I found a folder I didn't remember making. Years of my own bank transfers. What money sent to Jamila for her marketing startup. Money sent quietly to her mother, Indira, for bills nobody discussed at dinner. 5 years of my own generosity, laid out in my own handwriting, and beneath it all, that unfamiliar account statement, opened 8 months earlier. $47,000. I sat with it a long time, not angry, just tired in a bone-deep way. I thought about every dangerous overnight shift I'd taken that I never mentioned, every sacrifice made, because I thought that's what a good husband does. 3 days later, I was in a lawyer's office, not out of rage but exhaustion. A man can only carry a secret so long before he stops trusting his own house. 4 days after that, at Sunday dinner in Bronzeville, I overheard something that told me exactly how long this had been building. Through a half-open kitchen door, I heard Jamila tell her mother, "He's got that same look Daddy used to have." Right before, "I'm scared, Mama," and Indira answered, calm as seasoning greens, "You remember to get everything prepared the way I told you last year." Last year, not last week. Whatever this was had been in motion 12 months before I ever opened that drawer. I finished setting the table like nothing happened, because that's what I'd trained myself to do my whole life. Driving home that night, my mind went back 3 years, to when I'd turned down a director of boss security job in Houston, double my salary, because Jamila said she couldn't leave her mother. I never brought it up again, telling myself real men don't hold sacrifice against the people they love. Sitting in that car, I wondered for the first time if she'd ever even registered what I'd given up. That night, I opened her unlocked laptop and found a calendar full of bi-weekly appointments, marked only LB, Dr. Lena Brooks, a therapist. 8 months of Thursdays, paid in cash, no insurance trail. She'd been careful, not for privacy, but to make sure I never found out. I closed the laptop without a word. 3 nights later, my old nightmares returned. I woke up shouting. Jamila woke up screaming for a different reason. She wasn't scared of my dream. She was scared of me. She left the house and didn't come back for 3 days. When she did, she wouldn't meet my eyes. 2 weeks later, I ended up in the hospital myself. 3 cracked ribs, hurt shielding employees during an incident at a client site. Lying there, I overheard her phone buzz with a text. Safety plan. Reminder. Documents ready for attorney review. I asked her straight out what it meant. Shaking, she said, "I'm scared I'm going to end up repeating my mother's history." That confession cracked something open in me. It surfaced a memory I'd buried. Quietly paying for Indira's heart surgery 2 years earlier. Out of an emergency account nobody knew about. And telling the billing office to send no paperwork home. I'd hidden it because I loved Indira. Complicated as things were. And didn't want Jamila carrying that weight too. The next morning, Indira came to my hospital room alone. Dressed like she was heading to a church board meeting. A plate of biscuits in hand like an offering. She stood at the foot of the bed a long moment before she spoke. "I owe you the truth," she said finally. "Whether either of us wants to hear it right now or not." She told me I reminded her of Jamila's father. Not in behavior, but in shape. Tall, quiet, steady on the surface. Exactly how he'd looked the year before he showed his true self. "I pushed my daughter away from you because I was terrified of watching her live my life over door. Again. I've regretted it for 30 years, and I spent the last one making it worse instead of better." She admitted she'd known everything all along. The surgery money, the night shifts, Houston, and had let Jamila believe otherwise. I told myself I was protecting her, teaching her to stand on her own feet instead of leaning on a tent. The way I leaned on hers before he taught me what that costs a woman. But I wasn't protecting her, Quincy. I was protecting myself from admitting I'd been wrong about you from the start. Jamila walked in as her mother's hand found mine. For the first time, she told me the full truth of her childhood. Her father's charm before the wedding and control after. Nights locked in a bathroom until the house went quiet. Learning at 7 to read a man's mood through his key in the door. Every silence I ever offered as respect had landed on her like the calm before something worse. The 3 of us cried together in that hospital room. Not the kind of crying that fixes everything, but the kind that clears space for something to be fixed. 3 days after I came home, I found a suitcase in our closet, half-packed with careful precision. Not panic-packed, but planned over weeks. Jamila didn't try to explain it away. "I've walked past that closet 3 times a day since you got home," she said. "Some part of me isn't ready to unpack it, because that means admitting how close I came to using it." I pulled out a small fireproof box I'd kept under our bed for years, my own quiet records of support. And near the bottom, a card from Indira, written 3 years earlier, after her surgery. "Thank you for everything. Please don't let Jamila find out it was you. She needs to learn to stand on her own, not lean on a man the way I leaned on hers." Jamila read it in silence, then said quietly, "You paid for her surgery, and let her ask you to hide it from me for 3 years. She then admitted the attorney notification wasn't twice sudden. The papers had been ready for 2 weeks before I got hurt. She'd meant to file, but seeing me hurt in that hospital doorway, protecting people the way I always did, she couldn't go through with it. We sat with that old card between us, no argument left to have, just 2 people finally without armor. "I don't know if we can start over," I said. "Neither do I," she answered. "But I don't want to keep hiding things from you anymore." I told her I'd spent 14 years thinking silence was a gift I was giving her, and it might have been the loneliest thing I ever did to us both. 3 weeks later, in a joint therapy session with Dr. Brooks, the last piece surfaced. Jamila admitted part of that $47,000 had come from Indira, who had already put a deposit on a 2-bedroom apartment in Memphis, near her sister, an exit plan, fully arranged, months before any of this came out. And she'd never canceled it, even after everything she'd said in the hospital. It wasn't malice. It was 30 years of being ready to run, a survival reflex from a woman who once had nothing but a mortgage and a small daughter after her own husband walked out. Instead of swallowing it silently the way I once would have, Jamila and I drove to Bronzeville together, united, and asked Indira one plain question. Why hadn't she let it go? For the first time in 30 years, she didn't reach for an excuse. "Saying sorry in a hospital room was the easy part," she said. "The fear was never really about you, Quincy. It was mine. She canceled the lease that week and started her own counseling. Now my wife and I still see Dr. Brooks every other week. Her marketing business, quietly funded years ago by night shifts I never mentioned, turned its first real profit this spring, and she told me about it herself, out loud, at our own kitchen table. I still carry things. That's who I am. But I've learned the difference between carrying weight out of love and carrying it out of fear, of asking for help. That difference has made all the difference. Some Sundays now, Indira meets us at the door before we even knock. Tablecloth already down. Gospel radio already playing. Same house, same smells. But nothing in it feels like a performance anymore. It just feels like home, finally, for all three of us. This story is a reminder that sacrifices made in silence can end up starving the very pernative in souls. Because a gift no one knows about isn't remembered. It's just quietly absorbed and forgotten. If there's a debt of love sitting unspoken in your own house tonight, don't wait for someone to find it by accident. Sit down and tell the person you love one true thing you did for them that they never knew. And if you're carrying an old fear the way Indira carried hers, don't wait for a crisis to say it. Out loud, truth spoken over an ordinary supper heals more than truth confessed only after someone nearly loses everything.